Nearly 50 years coaching football. Phil Snow has been at so many different college programs. Of course, most recently with the Chicago Bears of the NFL, was here with Matt Rhule at Baylor, but he's been in many, many places. Nearly 50, I think 47 or 48.
47 years.
47 years.
Yeah.
And I'm talking Berkeley High School, Winters High School. So it wasn't like you did all the levels.
Yeah, I coached at the high school level, junior college level, 1AA, obviously 1A, and then the NFL. So it's been fun. It was fun.
Phil, Baylor plays Colorado this week. Colorado, they have flash to go around. I mean, so much flash, but they don't have, and I'm sure this would drive you nuts as a coach, they don't have toughness and grittiness, and they don't have that power on defense or offense in the lines. They cannot stop the run. They can't commit to the run. Is that something that you can fix in season at all when you're 3-4 games in, or is this something that you have to make a minor tweak and hope that it works?
Well, I had a chance I've watched Colorado this season, and I studied them last year. I've had a chance to do that in the last month. The defense at Colorado is getting better. If you watch the second half of the Nebraska game and last week, they're starting to stop the run. They're starting to play better. They shut out Nebraska in the second half, and they gave up 9 to Colorado State last week. So, and there's some toughness there with that defense. So I think they're going to get better on defense. Now, I think in the run game on offense, they're going to struggle. And because of that, if they don't get that going, then Secure's going to get hit a lot, right? And by the way, he's a fantastic quarterback. He has, he's smart, he's tough, he moves in the pocket. He's extremely accurate and can use all 53 yards of the field, the width of the field. He can throw the out to the field. He can throw the deep ball. He's a good player. If Baylor doesn't get pressure on him, then they'll struggle because they have some skilled guys. Horn and the other kid, they're good. They have some skilled kids.
So when people talk about Shedeur, he's a polarizing guy, but do you believe in him as a player on the next level?
My only concern with him is his size.
Okay.
But he is close to 6'2", and he'll get bigger as he matures, as a man. He's still young. But he has the qualities to play in the National Football League. He's tough. Boy, he moves well in the pocket. He feels the rush. Extremely accurate and can throw all the balls. So he will play in the National Football League.
All right. How many times when you were at Temple or Baylor did you threaten to fight Matt Rhule on the sideline?
Well, okay, you guys got to understand, Matt was GA'd for me in 2001 at UCLA, right? So Matt and I have, we love each other, but, we would get after each other on occasion. So we had a lot of fun together. And I think the players liked it. It was, we were competitive. And Matt's the same way. I'm not there with his staff right now, but he'll challenge them and they'll challenge him. So, I think the players like that because, everybody's on the player, right? But the coaches are on each other too, and the players can see how competitive it is. They like that.
Why does he, in year 2, take a team to a different level? You mentioned the culture. He obviously, the first year at Baylor, as you know, was a disaster because it just was so much going on. And then you go 7-6 or whatever it was, and then had the team that played in the Sugar Bowl. Why does it work that way? Is culture the main thing, or is it developing players?
Okay, I think Matt's biggest asset is his ability to get to know the players to a point where they'll do anything for him. He spends so much time with the players. And not only not football, I'm talking about their personal lives, their family, everything. And as you get to be around Matt more and more as a player, they'll just go to war for the guy. He knows they believe in him, and they believe in each other, and it's a hell of a combination.
It's that foxhole, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and I'm telling you, his players right now. If you go, I went over there this spring, and I was so impressed. The culture already developed in that building, and how everybody's on the same page. and you can see the love for each other in the building and on the field. So in a short period of time, he's done a fantastic job there.
How much of that, when you guys got here, it was a completely different rebuild type situation because you had a lot of guys that were really successful a couple years before and had won Big 12 titles, but had gone through all this off the field strife that just kind of leveled their emotions. Like you had to build them back up on a different way,
yep.
And clean out like some of the things that had gone on. With Nebraska, how much of that, the culture building so fast there is, you can feel it from the student body and the fans and the people in Lincoln, how badly they want this back to where they believe it can be, and the kids wanting to be a part of that because as opposed to being kind of sad about it, they're enthusiastic about bringing the glory back to Lincoln.
Well, I'll tell you a story about Baylor, and to me, this is the biggest difference. By the way, Art Briles is one of the best coaches that's ever coached football. Mm-hmm. I mean, but when we got there, our first workout in the off season, this is the darndest thing. So we got done, and the players were all at one end of the field, and all the coaches were at the other end. I don't know why we were there, why we were separated at the time. The players started yelling at the coaches, "You Northerners, go home. We don't want you here."
What?
The honest to God truth, guys. So we started from there at Baylor. Now, they didn't start from there at Nebraska. I know that because a lot of the really good players on that Nebraska team are from the state of Nebraska, and they love Nebraska, right? So they just wanted somebody to come in with an idea and a program and a process, and boy, they've really run with it. So two different jobs, completely two different jobs.
Yeah, the totally different situations you're walking into, but that Northern, I'd say I'm not surprised. Like I'm surprised when I heard that, but then I'm like, that about sounds right. I guess it was just such a mess back then. It's amazing what you guys were able to accomplish and how that all built up. And a couple of guys that were really key in that I was very much looking forward to asking you about were Jalen Petrie and Terrell Bernard. And Petrie he was out there flying around on Sunday night making big hits, but Terrell has turned into such an incredible player. Injuries cut his playoffs short, but he was having a hell of a season a year ago. Just what did you see in those guys? Did you kind of know, hey, these guys have this ability? Or how quickly did you sort of know that? And just their place in this whole puzzle for you guys in Waco. Can you just speak to Bernard and Petrie?
Well, Petrie, he's one of the few players that stayed in that class when we came in. So he loved
he was
Baylor.
The only one.
Yeah.
From the commitments to the previous coaching staff.
Yeah, he was the only one that stayed. And Terrell, he was actually going to the University of Houston. Mm-hmm. And I saw him on tape. They showed him to me, and I said, we got to go get this dude. So we went down there and dealt a lot with his grandparents, and they were fantastic, and he ended up coming to Baylor. And it was really sad when Clay Johnston got hurt our last year.
Yeah.
Right? But I knew that Terrell would come in and play. He was ready to play. And, we had Jordan Williams that played the one backer, and Jordan looked clumsy at times and all that, but man, he made plays, right? He was around the football and create turnovers. So Terrell wasn't playing that much. And then when Clay got hurt, Terrell took that job over and ran with it. But both guys, fantastic people. Our last year at Baylor, Petrie redshirted. So Matt had promised him he would redshirt him that year. So he played in the first 4 games. I said, Matt, hold on. He's our best Sam backer. What are we doing? Yeah. And he said, Snow, I promised him. So that's, we didn't get Petrie that year, right? But I knew he was going to be a great player. And David played him at the they played him perfectly. The spot they had in the defense was ideal for him.
How hard is it to let someone marinate that might help you win right now?
That's tough. It depends on where you're at in the program, right? And but Matt had promised Petrie that, and so he just lived with those. We were really lucky that year too. Clay was the only one that got hurt. Mm-hmm. So that really helped us. Otherwise, we would have missed Petrie.
He did tell me when he decided to take the job at Carolina, the day that it became official, that he kind of looked back at that and I want to get into what Dave Aranda's doing at Baylor as the defensive coordinator. He looked back and he probably thought that the speculation that week may have created a little bit of an issue that week. Georgia was great. You could see what they were about to do. Did you feel that as well?
Yeah, kind of. I think, Matt was not only pursued by Carolina, but I think he was going to go to the New York Giants is where he was going. Matt was. He had the New York was almost done. And then Tepper came in and offered him so much money, couldn't turn it down. But, Matt had always wanted to coach in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. It was a burning desire of his. And we loved Baylor. I mean, and we had it rolling at Baylor. I mean, I think we could have done some really special things if we would have stayed. But in his heart, he wanted to do the NFL thing. And, at his age and that kind of money, went and did it.
Yeah.
That last game, since we're talking about that, Jalen Hurts was the quarterback, right, for Oklahoma. Was that the last game you guys played, the Big 12 title game? Was that Hurts? That was
Hurts. We played him twice that year.
Yeah. So just any surprise that he's gone on to be the player that he is for the Eagles at the next level?
I have a lot of respect for that. And he's a grown man now. But, okay, we played him the first game, and we were ahead 31-10 at half. And he came out the second half and ran the ball 20. They ran triple option is basically what they did. 2 weeks later, they play Oklahoma State, and Gundy says, well, hell, this is the triple option we're playing. He gave up, and that was his last year, right? He gave up throwing the football so that team could win. And they actually were running the triple option. So the second half against us, they ran the option the whole – and they kept going for it on fourth down. They ended up beating us.
Yeah, that was a hell of a game, though.
Hell of a game. And then in the championship game, he didn't really want to run. We hit him in that first game. Henry Black hit him on the 5-yard line, and he wore a visor. Hurts did, and he hit him so hard it popped the visor out on contact. And I mean, he is just a tough. I had a lot of respect for him. Now I wondered if he was going to throw the ball well enough in the National Football League with enough accuracy. And he had the arm strength with the accuracy, and he's doing it. It sounds to me like he's a great leader.
I want to ask about Georgia. That was y'all's last game at Baylor, was that Georgia Sugar Bowl game. We touched on just kind of the build-up, and it was just, it was what it was. But did you see then, because they got rolling right after that game, like that was like before the national title runs. Yeah. Did you sense kind of what Kirby had building there and looking at them and knowing what was coming?
Well, the first national title game, they won against TCU when they beat the heck out of TCU. Yeah. One of my brothers asked me, Phil, how does that happen? How can they beat TCU like that? I said, listen, if you recruit there 5 years, they're getting 5 to 7 5-stars every year.
Yeah.
And so what happened was Kirby got there. He started winning after about the 4th year, right? So you got 20, 25 5-stars on their team. And 5-stars, it takes 5 seconds to watch them on tape and say, I'm taking that dude, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so those guys, you don't miss on those guys very often. Well, he has a whole team of 5-stars. And so that's a success, right? He's got the Jimmies and the Joes. And now they do a hell of a job coaching, a great system, all that too. But he has really good players. So and that day, remember the O-line didn't play?
Yeah.
And the backup O-line against us at Baylor, they were all 5-stars.
Yeah.
I mean,
every one of them.
Every one of them. They all came in, and I said, well, these are the backup. They look better than anybody we played.
I remember it was like a reality check and this was even this was like right before NIL basically, but it was a reality check of like, they're not even playing their best of the best at every position, and they're still rolling along like this. Like, that's just like, whoa, Georgia's something serious, and now we've seen the results ever since then. But yeah, that was quite the matchup.
And Saban did it for years, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So Dave Aranda is now calling the defense, and it was really almost shocking. You would watch them. Matthew Pallage, a young coach who was at Oregon, went from Baylor at Oregon, and then Dave's taken over the defense. So far, they've done pretty well. I mean, Utah had the early score, but 77-yard blocked field goal return for a touchdown. How difficult is it to do what he's doing as a head coach and also being the defensive coordinator? And I'm not sure if you've been able to watch them at Air Force last week. What are they doing, and do you see anything different?
Well, there's guys like Sarkisian's doing a hell of a job doing that, right?
Yeah.
There are guys doing it, and I think Dave has talked to Sarkisian about it. How do I do both? And obviously, Aranda, what he's done defensively, stands by itself, right? I mean, he's really good at what he does. So what he's done is he's went in there and put together a system with that staff, and they're real detailed. They're playing hard. It looks like they're physical. So I'm really anxious to watch them against Colorado.
Yeah.
I really am. I want to see if their skilled guys in the back end can match up with Colorado's skilled guys. And if they can, then, people are going to have to deal with their defense.
Did you come across him much, like even coaching clinics? Or I know the coaching's such a fraternity and there's all these tentacles, but did you cross paths with Aranda much, if ever?
Okay, so Aranda, when I was the defensive coordinator at UCLA, he would come and visit. When I was the defensive coordinator at Arizona State, he would come and visit. And he was young at Arizona State, really young coach. I'm telling you, David he was always going and trying to get better at football. Spent a lot of time with a lot of people. And he's got a lot of knowledge and really has a hell of a library of defense. So you're not going to surprise him with anything, and he'll have some surprises for you. So he's good at what he does.
He just has to make sure they have the right guys, enough of those dudes, right? And maybe they're getting to that point again, because last year it was disaster across the board. Was there a player at Baylor that you feel like, when you talked about how you, Matt, and that staff would develop players? You mentioned Henry Black, or just maybe I know there's probably more than, there's maybe 8 or 10 that you just didn't know was going to be able to play, but just became one hell of a player with you, that maybe just because he had that resiliency and fire.
Well, I think the biggest one you just mentioned was Henry.
Okay.
When we got there, Henry didn't play at all. And he didn't play for us the first year or two. And guys, Henry went and played 4 or 5 years in the National Football League.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great story. Never said a word, tougher than heck.
So he was quiet with y'all too, right? Because he just seemed like a very quiet guy from what we got to see. So he was just that way naturally, I suppose.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I coached the safeties, and there was no fooling around in that room. Henry sat there, and if a guy got out of line, he'd say, "Guys, that's enough." And boy, everybody, when he said that was enough, that was enough. So, boy, what a story Henry was. Chris Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris was.
Oh my
God.
He
Pound for pound is the toughest player I've ever coached. He only weighed 81 to 85 pounds. And if you watch him strike people, it's unbelievable. He was really, pound for pound, he's the toughest guy that I've ever been around.
Safety, he like Mr. Targeting. He did not care.
That was the downside to the flying in and tackling. But yeah.
You know what? Matt says, Snow, what are we going to do about the targeting? And I said, Coach, if we change who he is and we try to take his aggressiveness out, he won't be the same player. So he said, okay, we'll just live with it. He had 3 of them that year. He had 3 of them.
But the receivers second guessed when they felt him around them.
Hey, guys, I'm telling you, I talked to receivers in the NFL. They said, hey, Snow, we were afraid to go across the middle because Miller didn't care about getting kicked out. I said, you're right about that.
Man, those safeties you coached with Tillman, with him, and then, with Miller. And, oh, man, people love the stories that we're discussing with Phil Snow in studio, and we appreciate you. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Enjoy retirement.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And we've enjoyed all the great stories. So glad you were able to come in studio with us, and we will, in fact, try to do this again. Phil Snow with us on 365 Sports.